Hello, everybody. A big welcome and thank you to everybody for coming today. My name is Julius Mokrauer. I'm a managing director at Serious Change, where we make early stage investments in social enterprises. And I think our first investment we made was about in 2006. So we've been doing it for about 12 years. Today we have three amazing panelists here who are all representing certified B Corps. For those of you who don't know what a certified B Corp is, it's basically a certification that evaluates the social and environmental performance of a company. Specifically, it's evaluating how the operational and business model affects, one, the employees, two, the community, three, the environment, and four, the end user. And we're going to talk about how these companies are using business as a force for good, as well as some of the challenges of scaling that societal impact. The format today, we're going to try to keep it fun and fast-paced and informative. We're going to start with about a couple minutes of intros, 20 minutes of panel discussion, and about 15 minutes of Q&A. So please save your questions for then. One question, just to get a sense of who's in the audience. How many people here are students, with a show of hands? Okay. How many people here have an idea batting around for a social enterprise? Got it. How many people work for a social enterprise or have started one? Whoa, that's awesome. And how many people here are just exploring, learning, curious about it? Great. We had a good mix. So without further ado, the panelists are going to introduce themselves. Alex Husted from HELPSY, the founder of HELPSY, will get us started.
Hi, I'm Alex. My company's HELPSY. We keep clothing out of the trash. So for those of you around New York, you may have seen big blue bins around. We created this business to highlight the environmental impact of the fashion industry and the waste that it produces. And we've been very successful so far, and becoming a B Corp has been a big part of that. So I'm very excited to talk to you all today about that.
Hi everyone, I'm Peter Neiman. I'm the CMO of Amalgamated Bank, a 95-year-old bank that's headquartered in Chelsea. And we are trying to build America's socially responsible bank. And with that, our clients include, we really come from out of the union space. We were created in 1923 by the Amalgamated Clothing Workers Unions as the first place where union workers could actually get into the financial system. We've been trying to help people who in need ever since. And we are the bank for unions, for the progressive political organizations and campaigns. We bank Hillary Clinton's campaign, we bank the Obama Foundation, we bank probably 6 or 7 people that will run for president in 2020. We bank nonprofits, we bank foundations, and we bank socially and environmentally responsible organizations. So with that, I will pass to Jessie.
My name is Jessie. I am the founder of Ox Verte. We are a plant-forward food company that serves breakfast and lunch to offices across Manhattan and now certain parts of Brooklyn. In addition to being a certified B Corp, or rather part of that, we have a very heavy emphasis on 3 things. The first is health. The second is sustainability, and the third is seasonality.
Great. Well, to get everybody sort of oriented around your businesses, maybe you could each talk about what impact means for you and what the idea of scaling that impact means. And whoever wants to start, go for it.
Sure, I'll start that. It's quite interesting because I think our view of impact has certainly evolved over the 4 years that we have been in business. When I first founded the business, my view of impact was a bit more narrow. My passion, I come from a finance background, but my passion is really around health and transforming diet. And so to me, impact was really about our product and the health features of it and the impact of the people eating the product. Now, 4 years in, my view of impact is a lot broader, and it incorporates much more about how we do business. So not just what we're doing, which is the food we're serving, but who we work with, what kinds of suppliers, what kinds of partners, how much we're paying our employees, just what kind of a corporate citizen we are. So it's much more about, or as much about the how as the what.
And was some of that catalyzed by going through the B Corp certification process?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think certainly I think all of us can attest that the B Corp certification really pushes you and prods you into areas where you didn't even realize you could have a positive impact as a business leader. And it's both challenging and really exciting in that way.
For us, impact is about what we do with people's deposits and money. Right now, most people, when they go to the bank and they give their paycheck or they give their money, they think that it's in the vault or that it's waiting for them when they go to the ATM. What we're trying to convince people and educate people about is that when you give your money to the bank uses it, lends it out, or invests it, and we want to invest it in things that are impactful. So we measure what the percent of our investments are into affordable housing, into environmentally friendly businesses, into clean energy, into organic foods. Alex is a client of ours in the recyclable clothing industry. But so we actually measure not only the amount of dollars and the amount of investment that's going back into helping the community and helping the world, but also how much and how much we can do it ourselves as well. And that's where the B Corporation thing for us comes in. We're the largest B Corporation bank. And for us, it's about walking the walk so that when we go out and sort of sell our services to others, they know that there's a like-minded company behind that.
To put Peter's impact in perspective, how many assets, what are your assets under management in this bank?
You know, for us, we're a $4 billion bank, but we have $42 billion under assets. We have a trust department that has custody and assets under management for a lot of unions, and we do the pension funds for a lot of the firefighters and the electrical workers and the football players and a lot of the bigger unions.
That's great.
So for us, the simplest way we measure our impact is how many pounds we keep out of the trash. So last year that was 25 million. And we're looking for ways to grow that, but we're also very concerned about the impact on our employees as well. We want to do well by them in all manner of ways, and also the greater community and the greater environmental scene around this whole problem. And the way that we get our business to grow and make ourselves more successful and really address this problem is to bring to light the tragedy that is the end life of the fashion industry. So our impact is about getting this in people's faces and getting it out from behind the curtain.
So when you think of dollars, capital dollars that you have to invest in scaling impact, most of it's going on to the marketing side? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's a fantastic question. Actually, for our business, marketing is far less impactful than just convenience. So you can think of it like traditional recycling. So telling people to recycle their bottles and cans, no matter of commercials and public service announcements are going to make as much impact as putting the green can next to the black can and have it just as easy for somebody to put the bottle in the right place as for them to throw out whatever else they're throwing out. So our big push is to make it as convenient as possible, and be in places where people are every day.
So the core value proposition for your end customer is just driven by convenience. They're still purpose-driven, I assume.
I think we want to, just like any other recycling program, we want to believe that people want to do the right thing. They don't want to do the wrong thing. And this is borne out, hundreds of times a day with people's conversations they have with us, is that they want to put their they don't want to throw clothing in the trash, but they don't know what to do with it. So we're there to help them make the right choice and make it easy for them to do the right thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And how have you guys found the financing environment as you've scaled and grown your businesses at the different stages? So there's the seed stage and Series A and debt facilities. Any thoughts on that from Jessie, perhaps?
I have found that I think the last panel did a really good job. So just to give you quick background, I spent 7 years in finance. I spent half of that sort of on the sell side in investment banking and did a few years also on the investing side. And it is surprising to me, in listening to this last panel, how much has changed and how much has also still stayed the same. One of the things, though, that I am kind of most excited by is the increase in dialogue. So one of the things, we have had some big announcements come out from big players like BlackRock, and then you just heard from KKR and Bain Cap about declarations of needing to include impact in the way they do diligence and in the way they measure returns. And that has trickled down into all the way down to the angel investor level. And so there's just the dialogue and the chatter around it has really, really increased in the last few years. So that's awesome. And I think what we're all kind of waiting for is tangibly then, what is that actually going to mean? And to make it more personal, kind of for me, I have started to have conversations with investors who are curious about B Corps. So they may not know what a B Corp is, but they are curious and they are asking questions. And this is at kind of the seed Series A level. And that's been really exciting. But it's evolving, I think is the best word.
Great.
As a bank, we're heavily regulated, and we have certain credit risk that companies or that people that we're going to lend money to have to clear. But for us, if a company or an organization has a great mission and an important mission that we believe in, we try a little bit harder to fund them, and we work a little bit more with our credit people to see what we can do to get that. And so we look at it as a real differentiator. There's 5,000 banks out there, all of which have the same exact money, and if we can help companies that we believe then pay it forward and help doing that, we're going to try like mad. B Corporation to us is a seal of approval that a company is doing the right things internally, and we're trying to fund more of them.
At what stage would a company be ready for whether it's revenues or for your types of financing vehicles?
As the chief marketing officer, I will do this a disservice, but it's probably 3 years of growth and profitability before we'll even look at it. But we are working with, we're working with intermediaries so we make a loan to the city or the state or other financials who then bring it to affordable housing people, or then bring it, so the project financing or other financing to help with bigger sort of massive projects will lend to that versus lending to the individual companies.
Got it.
I have a question for you on that end. You said something interesting, which is if you believe in the company's mission, you'll sort of try a little bit harder to fund them. Does that practically mean that you can, in some cases, be more lenient on things like profitability or revenue growth, or what does that end up sort of meaning?
It means that we have internal credit policies that have to go through a board of directors and through that, and those are pretty inflexible. Mm-hmm. But there are banks that wouldn't even look at look at certain companies, and we'll look at them. Yep. So we know that. Yep. I do think we try harder.
I think you do too.
I think I can actually answer that question better than you can,
Yeah,
having been through the
I
process.
I think anybody could.
With your bank. So we got started as, through a series of acquisitions about 2 years ago for our company, and the seed capital was, like all of my money, all of my partner's money, that sort of thing. But part of it was also an SBA loan through a different bank, and the process of going to banks, large and small, and with a mission-driven company, and getting them to understand and getting them interested was horribly painful, to put it bluntly. And we just really didn't find anywhere where mission mattered at all. And we were able to get an SBA loan through a small community bank purely for the reason that they are in the business of cranking out SBA loans. And we kind of got lucky on that one. But the going through and becoming a B Corp, we did to sort of put our money where our mouth is, more or less. And we're committed to being a triple bottom line company, and we wanted to be able to promote that, to make that shine. And had I known the world of connections and everything that becoming the B Corp would have opened up to us, my God, I would have done it a whole lot sooner, because that's what really led us to people, people like Amalgamated Bank, who ended up, like saving our bacon a little bit, and folks where it's not an exaggeration. Like, they really do care. Like, the B Corp community really does care about helping each other and helping you with your mission. And I don't know, I just can't say enough good things about it, being involved in this community.
Great. So I hear it, when you said contacts, it helped with contacts and meeting people. Are you talking about the strategic partnership side? Are you talking about that in addition to like financing? Now you know about mission-aligned financiers?
It's really all the above. It's being in, I guess the way I describe recently being in the B Corp community is they have an annual convention. This year was in New Orleans. And I've been to all sorts of conventions and trade shows over my years and past lives. And you kind of go, generally, there's a handful of people you really want to talk to, a handful of people you really want to avoid, and about half the people you meet there are total jerks, right? So going to this show, I didn't know to have any different expectations.
My next question is, what category am I in?
Yeah, sure.
I was wondering what you would.
I see people looking at each other around the tables a little out here, too. But going to the conference, it was just shockingly positive in that everybody there really wanted to know about your business, really wanted to know how they could help you, really wanted to be your friend. And it wasn't, it wasn't all just lip service. It was for real, and it was just tremendously refreshing to know that there are other people out there that care. There are other people out there who are mission-driven and successful, and who want to help others have that same success. And it's just for us, it's been the most fantastic club to belong to.
So my takeaway is, we've got a really rich panel here. It's rare to have the entrepreneurs and the funders together. And what I'm hearing from both sides of the equation is that the certification is just worth it. It's something you should go and do. I can tell you from our portfolio companies that there are people that go, they think about that, should we do it, should we not do it? And that would be great if they could hear you, so I may send them the links to let them know. So as you've been thinking about scaling your businesses, what kind of challenges have you come up against? Anybody want to take a stab at that?
For our business, scaling has been a challenge because our competitor is the trash. So there are other people who do things that we do. There are other ways to keep your clothing out of the trash, but our competitor is the landfill and the incinerator. And because that's where 85% of it goes. So what other business is structured, what industry is structured such that 85% of your competition is just like, you know, blue ocean. Like there's nobody there, there's no competition. I haven't found one where that exists besides ours. So addressing that need with sort of unlimited opportunities is just a challenge because it's, you know, there's a lot of things that come up constantly, and we have to be very careful about how we apply, you know, the limited internal funds we have to address growth opportunities and to prioritize what's maybe, you know, the big impact stuff that's going to take longer and stretch out versus the smaller impact stuff that's quicker, and balancing those investments.
Yeah, so everything about scaling a food business is challenging. I think there are three main areas that just pop into my head as the biggest challenge. The one has nothing to do with being a mission-driven organization, but as a company that makes and delivers food, the challenges of scaling the logistics piece of the business. I think probably all of you have heard about, from Postmates to Instacart to big companies like Maple who have trouble. It's a really, really hard thing. It's a really cool problem to intellectualize, but really hard. But that's less relevant to this conversation. So I'll talk about two areas I think that are interesting from our perspective. So one is talent. You know, and when you're really, really young, I found that my core team found me because they were attracted by our mission. They saw the B Corp. They knew they wanted to be part of a B Corp, and they immediately get it. Cool, they're on board. We need to compost, and that costs us an extra, you know, whatever it is every you know, then we should be paying. Awesome. But as you grow, you know, and you need to attract more and more people, you're not necessarily going to just have these the people who are coming to you for the mission. And it doesn't mean they don't care. It doesn't mean they're not good people and might be interested in those values and the B Corp. But it means that you really have to have a really thoughtful communication and training plan in place so that you're all sort of marching to the same metrics. So you understand what the B Corp assessment is, which parts of that your business is really concerned about, what are the trade-offs and the decisions you make as a result. And so that as a leader and the leadership team, that to me has been a challenge, and I don't think we've done a great job at it yet, but it's something I'm really working on as a 2019 goal. And then I think the third piece that is very mission related as well is, you know, the bigger you scale. So we're still quite small, but we've served, I think, as of yesterday, just about 150,000 people across about just under 1,000 offices. You know, every decision you make all of a sudden becomes a lot more visible. And so it's interesting because you're trying to grow as quickly as you can, but even the decision you make on one piece of packaging when you were a lot smaller, maybe you had more room to test because you had less eyeballs looking at you. And as a company that wants to hold themselves so accountable to doing the right thing, and I want our customers to hold us accountable, all of a sudden we have sort of a bigger feedback loop. And that's become very apparent to me lately. And so that's been an interesting thing to think about, and changes a little bit how quickly we'll test things or and make decisions.
Wow, that was great. I got a couple things I want to follow up on.
Yeah.
One, can I bring you in? So you talked about sort of hiring based on mission in the beginning, that you got people attracted there. And then you talked about sort of the tension as you start to scale there, right? And you've got skills needs you have to fill, I assume, and stuff like that, and maybe you can't find a mission-oriented person. Well, now I think about Amalgamated Bank, 95 years, sort of an unshakable mission. How have you guys done that? How have you walked that tightrope?
There's a couple things. I mean, I think, first of all, you do it by your actions. You can't just say you're a socially responsible bank, or you can't just say, we're a mission-driven bank. We were the first bank. First of all, we were founded by immigrants, and so, we were the first bank to provide free savings accounts for them. We were the first bank to let them wire money back home in order to get that. We were the first bank to fund affordable housing for a lot of the union workers who had come over from areas. We were the first bank, as a union bank, we were the first bank to give car loans to people who bought American cars, discounted rate for people who bought American cars when the crisis in the 70s when we started doing that. And so what we try to do is every year sort of deliver a product or deliver a number of products that demonstrate mission. So, and obviously with investing, with socially responsible investing and the growth of that would enable us to go there. But for us to do that, we have to deliver a thing, and for us to scale, we just became public. So for the first time, we have outside money that's not just union money and PE. Yeah, thanks. But it will enable us to take this model and take it to different cities, and to be able to grow and to be able to grow beyond. Right now, we're in New York, DC, and San Francisco, and the goal is to go to other progressive cities.
And historically, what have been your challenges to scale? Is it focused on HR?
Yeah. The goal of scaling is that to run a bank and to run the branch system of the bank, it's not a very profitable business. The commercial side of the business is much more profitable than the consumer side. And so there's an awareness component to it. There's the fact that it's competitive, and there's the fact that 5 or 6 banks control 70% of the deposits. So you're always competing with Chase and Citi and TD and Bank of America and Wells and to me, there's always an issue there with just being outspent and outshouted.
Great. When you think about, a lot of times when people think about a social for-profit enterprise, it's something that Jessie mentioned. They think about it's a commercial enterprise with all these other demands on top of it. So it must be like a higher bar. It must be harder. What are the things that are easier being a social enterprise? Is that a stumper?
I can start if you guys give it if you like. I actually think that it's going to help us recruit talent. That I think that we're in the mecca of the financial world, and there's as I said, there's 1 million banks and 1 million financial companies that people can work for. And to me, it's a differentiator. Our bank is a differentiator. That this is something. If you are a mission-driven person and you believe in this, and you like finance and you want to do it, I think that we're a good place to work. And I think that is a big help in recruiting talent.
Yeah, we see that as well. That with most of our companies, that they have less turnover. It's easier to get great advisors because people are just aligned with the mission, or get board members. But any thoughts on that from two of you?
I think it takes away some of the decision making that entrepreneurs would typically struggle with, of how to spend the money, save the money, how you treat your employees, things like this. You're committed to doing the best for everybody. You're committed to your environmental mission, your social mission, and like those guiding principles just end up answering a lot of questions for you that otherwise would be something that gets debated with the ownership or the board or whoever's ultimately in charge of the enterprise. So I think from that perspective, it is helpful in keeping people focused on growing the business and not worrying about these questions that would otherwise sort of bog down the operation.
Got it. So going back to something you said, Jessie, about on the scaling side and the challenges, have you guys seen, can you just talk about a bit about the tension between impact and your profitability playbook as you've scaled?
Oh, totally. I think there's no better way to there's no better industry to think about that than food. So in the food industry, in the food delivery industry, there is no, to me, and people would disagree with me, but I think they're probably wrong. There is no better metric of whether or not your business can scale than unit economics. And so for those of you who might not be familiar yet with what a unit economic is, unit economics is literally how much money are you making off of that widget that are delivering, that single widget. So just that simple equation, how much are you selling it for, and what are the costs involved? Cool. In food, you know, that margin or those unit economics is a really, really tricky equation. And so as you scale, you know, we have certain inputs on the cost side that are higher than the rest of the food industry, and they're absolutely non-negotiable for me. So an example of them is how much we pay our folks in the kitchen and how much we pay our oxen who deliver our food. Most of you have heard about how horribly people can get paid in the food industry, and we are committed to being above where New York's future minimum wage standards are for everybody in our kitchen. So that's one thing, and that directly impacts our unit economics as we scale. And the second is the cost of our food. So we have a commitment to source 80% of every season's menu from within the tri-state area. Sometimes that means that when things are super, super in season, they can be a bit more affordable, but more often than not, they aren't. And organic, a large portion organic as well. And so what that actually ends up meaning is that, you know, for us to be dropping as much money to the bottom line as we need to, you know, our numbers have to be a lot bigger, and so that's a challenge. But it's not a question. I would never consider doing it any other way, but it's definitely what I think about almost every day. And
are you finding your end customer is willing to pay extra, pay a premium for that?
Yes. Yes, and I am less certain about the degree to which the customer could articulate what exactly they're paying a premium for, which is something we're working on. And what I mean by that is when I talk to my customers and I say, hey, what do you associate us with? You know, they say health. Sometimes they'll say environmental, you know, some iteration of environmentally responsible. So and they understand that they're sort of paying more for this intangible series of things that they feel when they eat our food. And that's awesome. I'm glad we've done a great job of just sort of giving people that feeling. And one of the things I really want to work towards, and the B Corp language will help us do that, is I want our customers to know what that really means. So you know, what is about our sourcing that you're paying for? What is it about, you know, how we pay and treat our folks? And I think that makes the customers even feel better. So the answer is yes, but I think I would like it to be a stronger yes.
Got it. Well, thank you. We're getting short on time, so we're going to shift over to the Q&A part of the panel. So there's our first one.
Thank you for an outstanding panel. Peter, I wanted to know if you could talk about how you spend your advertising dollar, and in paying for your advertising, are you reflecting your values, and if so, how?
Yeah, thanks. You know, I wish we had more advertising dollars. So we don't. We use you know, sort of the basic things, but social media search, a lot of paid public relations and public relations. And what we do mostly is we take stands on issues and talk about that. For instance, we won't lend to gun manufacturers. We won't lend to pipeline, for the pipeline. We're not part of the pipeline. We are the client we are the bank for Planned Parenthood, and we'll stand up for some of the things that they believe in. And so what we do is we're sort of more issues-based instead of being product-based. Like we don't focus on checking accounts or savings accounts or that. It's really sort of the issues-based, and a bank who believes in helping the LGBTQ community or focusing on immigrants' rights and that kind of thing. So we're mostly on social and public relations and search, and on being a bank with a mission, and a bank that believes in certain progressive issues.
Thank you.
Sure.
There's no one else. Can I keep going?
I think there's some folks behind you.
Hi. It was very interesting to hear about this. It's kind of my first time hearing about impact investing and B Corps, etc. I work at the Doe Fund. So my question kind of addressed to all of you, since, as you said, it's a mixed panel of entrepreneur and investor, is how do you manage your investors' expectations? I imagine it's an evolving relationship and they check in on you. So for example, if you are experiencing more public scrutiny for needing to maybe, package something more, and you're getting the feedback that, it's not environmentally conscious or something like that, how does your, how do you negotiate with your investor when they say, this isn't gonna help the returns? How do they help you navigate those issues when they come up?
Yeah. So I heard two different things. Are you guys all able to hear that question? Okay, cool. So I think that one of the things that the BCorp Assessment has forced and allowed, so I'm going to use both of those adjectives, us to do is to be vulnerable. So the BCorp Assessment, for those of you who haven't been able to check it out, it's public. So you can go and check out our companies and see exactly what our number scores are. So it's sort of, we can't hide anything. And as a result, there's sort of a comfort in that, where it's all out there. There's a transparency, and it allows us, it has given me comfort in that you're not going to spin anything, you're just going to tell it like it is. So if someone, and this happened to me last week, one of our really big revenue customers, is pushing me on our packaging, and I was able to give her a very transparent answer, which is we are not where we want to be yet. And that kind of vulnerability has been, was forced on me by the BCorp Assessment. I mean, it's also, in this particular instance, you can't hide what your packaging is, and not that I would want to, but it's also allowed me to be vulnerable. And I think on the second piece, which is in the investor side, and to me, it's all about having like-minded partners. You don't want to be fighting that battle every single day. You don't want to have to be justifying why you're paying people a living wage. I mean, to me, that's just not possible. So that would be my answer, but I'm sure you could add.
We don't have outside investors at this point. It's just the three of us partners that own the company, but I totally appreciate the transparency with the B Corp and with everything you do with the public. And I think part of our, sort of parallel difficulty in dealing with our stakeholders, the people we deal with on a regular basis, was being able to say no is difficult, because we're providing environmental service. We want to build and grow, and we want to help everybody solve this problem. But we're still, because we have to make money, we have to pay the employees, we have to pay the rent, all these things, we're still required to say no at times. Say like, look, we'd love to, come pick up all the stuff you've got, but you're just way too far away. Like, it's just, we can't do it, I'm sorry. And so it's difficult to have to do that. And but I think people, people don't shy away because of that. I think they're, for the most part, they appreciate that, like, we're not disingenuous, we're not stretching ourselves, we're really there to try to help. I think having that answer gives people the confidence to call back again and to re-engage. Just like you're saying with the packaging, like the fact that you can give an honest answer means that you really do care and you really are engaged.
Thanks. Yeah, we just lean into it. We just sit there and say, look, we may not make as much money for our shareholders as some of the others, but we're doing a lot of good things, and we believe that we will get more business over time in order if we're on this and hopefully make it up in volume. And we also can control sometimes interest rates and fees and things along those lines so we feel that people will it's not that they pay a premium to come to us, but we don't pay a premium out with our money in order to bank. So we're all in on this.
Thank you very much.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for being here. My question is specifically for Alex, and I'm really fascinated by clothing waste and the textile industry, and I was just kind of curious if you could give us a little bit more color in terms of the unit economics and like how challenging the job is, and also with respect to that 85% that you're dealing with the landfill aside, what the relationship you have with the donation, just like clothing organizations and thrift shops that go to charity. Is there a tension there, or is that a relationship where you just take what they don't want? Just a little bit more detail would be awesome. Thank you.
How much time do we have?
Right.
I guess I have to pick some parts of that. The unit economics side for used clothing, as maybe you can imagine, is kind of complicated. But it's also kind of simple in the sense that it's all about density, just like any other public utility, or like you think of it as another recycler, right? So if you have a company that collects recyclables, you can't have 3 customers on 122nd Street and a couple of customers in Chelsea and a couple of customers in Brooklyn. It just doesn't work. Like you want to have density. So there's our company kind of thrives on that density, being able to service things that way. And what we do is very much a logistics business. We don't have retail operations at all. We collect and consolidate and sell to folks that do sort things out to sell into secondary markets. So we are a logistics business in the same way that your trash hauler is, or the UPS delivery guy is, or whatever. So that having that focus on density and being able to profitably serve a given geography is very core to how we decide to grow our business and how we decide to invest in our future. And I'm happy to talk to you more after about the rest of the clothing business. Otherwise, I could be here all day.
I think we have time for this one last question. So go for it.
Thanks. I feel so special. I'm Dr. Tara Batista from Columbia University School of Social Work, and my question is for you, Peter. And I think you started to answer it, but I was wondering if you could elaborate. I think I heard you say that you're a B Corp and you just issued an IPO, so now you're a publicly traded company. I think you know what I'm going to ask.
Yes, I do.
And you just said you're going to lean into any criticism from shareholders. Do you anticipate any challenges maintaining your B certification and maximizing shareholder wealth? For example, are you worried that you might get sued by your shareholders? If that ever happens and they try to force you to drop your certification, will you drop it? Are you going to refile as a benefit corporation? How are you going to navigate this, or is it just really not an issue because it's totally profitable to be, a B Corp?
I can answer what's happening today, and because we've also just merged with a bank in San Francisco, we're actually going through recertification right now. But the bank in San Francisco had almost double our BCorp score, so we're actually going to get better. And I think that the investors that we have right now, when we did the IPO and we did it in August, we 7 times oversold what we were putting out into the market, and we just did we just put more stock out in early December or early November. And I think that what we saw was that major companies picked it up, and they, our shareholders are not socially responsible companies. They're Goldman Sachs. They're big companies that believe in us and want to do that. So we have no plans to lose B Corp certification. We have no plans to not do what we're doing right now. What the issue is that what we have to prove is that there's profit in mission, and profit in mission is something that we just need to make sure that our metrics inside are what we're doing. So if we feel that that it isn't just about, oh, you do good, therefore you don't make as much money. We pay our people $15 an hour. It's like, oh, that means that your costs are there. We can show, and I don't want to really talk, and I can't talk about how we do it, but we can show about why we're just as profitable as most other banks on a percentage basis. And it really is, as I said before, because a lot of our customers are willing to take less. Political campaigns are able to they don't need the money to make money. They need the money because they need to get advertising on TV quickly. And the money comes in, the money goes out, and we're very good at political campaign advertising. We're very good at holding money for unions and what they need. We're very good at understanding what nonprofits need and how to help them. So it's really about our process and method for these segments.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a minute left. I noticed a lot of people in the audience are thinking about starting up an enterprise, and I'm thinking about takeaways for them. One is start doing your banking with Amalgamated. 2 is get B Corp certified. Any other tips that you guys would give them? What was the tip that you never got that you should have gotten about getting started?
This is a way I operate, and I actually think it served well, and I give it to a lot of other people when you're starting a business. And I imagine, as students in the room, a lot of you will also fall into this trap. When you're starting a new business, there's this tendency to overthink, and so overdo business plans and overdo financial models. And I have this theory. So when we started, to make it very simple, I moved from an idea to beta testing in 6 weeks. And I really had this theory that once you start, unless an extreme bias for action. And so something that you can take 6 months or you can take 6 weeks, and the results aren't going to be that far apart. And so my takeaway for that, besides bias for action, is just do it. And that is something that I've told a lot of young founders, and hopefully it resonates, and it's really served us well also.
Thanks. And by the way, she doesn't work for Nike.
I know, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was great. Well, anyway, let's give a big round of applause for our astonishing panelists.